welcome back to the Young, Wired, and Unmedicated podcast. I am your host, Lauren Ruggiero, and what a topic we have today. Managing ADHD while traveling. So for those of you guys who have been watching my YouTube videos, if you're listening on Spotify, my channel is Adventures with Mohr. And on my channel, I, take you through my vlogs and what I do for work. And I travel all around the United States and some in Canada as well. And I, do this videography job. And it's quite interesting having ADHD and traveling. There's so many aspects to it. And there's just so many things that I've noticed that I do to be able to function at my job and, to navigate all of the airports and the systems and things like that. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to, talk about managing it and kind of honing it in and kind of sharpening it like a knife. So that way, when you go and travel, and if you have ADHD, you can more or less be more prepared and kind of know how to navigate everything. Okay. So with ADHD, there's a lot of things that you are paying attention to. So our sporadic minds have a lot of stuff going on in our heads. And on top of that, we have to navigate this airport if we haven't navigated it already. So if it's a new place or if it's a new city, it's really overwhelming already as it is. And to be fair, we are already in an overwhelmed state from our brain. So it's kind of a double entendre, and it is completely hard to focus and kind of know where to go and the anxiety of it all. So before we even get into any of the, mid-traveling things, let's start with the pre-trip planning. So a lot of people with ADHD forget about a lot of things. We forget to pack a lot of things. We forget some of the things that are important and that we need, like passports and stuff. Like I haven't even packed my passport and we leave tomorrow. So I haven't even gotten it out. So, by pre-planning this whole trip, it helps brain-wise. And there is such a big difference as well when you're traveling solo versus traveling with another person. When you're traveling with another person, you can kind of rely and lean on them for different things, like, if they're, checking in or for the flight, or if they're, reserving or getting the Ubers, or, so you can kind of lean on that. Whereas if you're solo traveling, everything is just on you. So you have to figure out what you are going to do. However, if I'm packing alone, I always make a packing list. That way I have everything written down. I know everything that's important, that's on top of the list. So I write down all the important things that I need: passport, wallet, phone, schedules, the things that I need and I cannot function without. Once I leave this apartment, I always put on top of the list. And then I go down the list. Okay, what kind of clothes do I need? What kind of toiletries are a necessity? Can I get through the weekend with this kind of tube of toothpaste? You know what I mean? So going over things like that help when you're packing. A lot of us just kind of stress pack at the last minute because that's when our brains are most turned on, right? It's like the stress of it helps us just get it done, pack faster. That's just how we work. That's how we function, right? But getting a list, making sure you have everything, making sure you have jammies, making sure you have different things like that, ultimately helps you in the end to make sure that you are not forgetting anything. also in a sense of, in the pre-trip planning, making sure you know where you're going. So a lot of airports are kind of confusing. So I know Chicago's a big one, Atlanta, even in Colorado, they have like trains connecting from rental car places or different gates, at different terminals, and you have to get on this train that'll take you things. So it's just like, it's very complicated. And so what I always do is I always at least watch a video on how to navigate that airport. That way I'm going into it knowing where things are, knowing how to navigate things, so nothing is a surprise to me when I get there, right? So nothing is like, oh my God, I have to take a train to get from point A to point B. I got to take a shuttle. I got to make sure the shuttle's on time. So it's like all these things you have to prepare for, you have to plan for, and you have to know what you're getting yourself into, right? By doing this, it eases my anxiety because my brain is already unpredictable and already, talking about like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? By having it all planned out and knowing what you're getting yourself into and going into, it helps release some of that anxiety. So that way you're less stressed and then you're more capable to deal with what's in front of you. I create a little bit of a outlined itinerary, not like a step-by-step, like this is what we're doing this day, 8 a.m. we're going to get up, 9 a.m. we're going to have breakfast. It's not really like that. It's more or less like, okay, today we're going to be going here. I have to, get this done. I want to see that. And then the rest of the day is kind of up for grabs, go with the flow. Or, I have to be at my job at the place I'm working at 10. Before that, maybe I'll have some breakfast. Maybe I'll go for a little workout. Do some of those things, and then we're gonna, work from this to this, and then, we can just go with the flow after that. It's kind of creating a little bit of an outline itinerary, right? Not essentially step by step, but more so a general idea of what you're gonna be doing. It takes away some of that anxiety and the fear of like, oh my God, what am I doing now? What's next that I should be doing? What have I, should have gone for or done? And it helps you to kind of just calm down and be like, okay, so I just need to go here. I guess the rest is up to my interpretation. So let's, see if we have any thrift stores or grocery stores for food or something like that. So it's helpful in that manner just to have a little bit of an outline so you kind of know a little bit what's going on. And so nothing hits you in the face as a shock or surprise. And then you have to get used to that and adapt to it. It's easier to adapt something when you kind of know what you're going into. And again, it's just different traveling alone versus with someone else. Like you can rely on them. Like, oh my God, I forgot toothpaste. Do you have some toothpaste I can borrow? Just things like that. You have extra because that other person is there. Whereas on your own, you're like, okay, well, I forgot toothpaste, so now I have to go out and find time and buy it. And if you're going to another country, it could be more expensive because of the currency there, it just things like that where it gets a little annoying on your own if you forget something. So really be thorough, I would say, if you're doing it solo, if you're traveling solo versus with somebody else, you can be a little bit more lenient, but I still would rather be prepared even with another person, because what if they forgot something and they need what you have? You know what I mean? So it's always good to be prepared. I think that's why I'm such a preparer, and I have a lot of useless things with me, but like in a certain situation, they would be so useful, and my girlfriend gets so mad at me all the time. She's like, why do you need this? Like, why? And I'm like, well, if we're in this scenario and in this situation, this could be very practical for this. Like, let me just take it. And then she like loses the battle. But ultimately, it's because I'm preparing, right? I'm thinking of the worst possible outcomes that could happen. And I'm also thinking about the good things that can happen. But I like being prepared for both, okay? Because again, my brain needs that. Another thing to manage ADHD while you're traveling is routine, right? Routine management, how to keep your routines kind of in check. Routine is very crucial for people with ADHD because, again, it's that predictability that we rely on. And it's something that we can always have. And it gives us a sense of center. It gives us a sense of calm, like, okay, we're just doing this, like, it's fine. You know, we might be in a new environment and that might be very overwhelming, but I'm doing my routine. It gets me into that mood of like, okay, like, it's normal, it's fine, we're okay. So establishing a routine right off the get-go. So if you're, you know, driving somewhere, if you're flying somewhere, and it's the first night, beginning of the day, create a set routine that you're going to follow every day after. So for me, when I go for work, when I travel for work, the first time I get there, I lay out my clothes for tomorrow, because I'm usually getting up at like 5 in the morning. So I try to, you know, make sure that I'm setting myself up for success. So I'll lay out my clothes, you know, I'll put my towels by the shower, you know, make sure everything's ready and set so I could just get in the shower, get dressed, like free flowing, free thought. You know, it's very nice. I have a little breakfast. I always, this is a part of my routine. I always have coffee, whether that be hotel coffee or like Starbucks or whatever. I always have coffee. And it's the weirdest thing, like coffee, drinking something that's, I guess, warm every morning is very comforting for me. And it's because of this routine, right? I've set it in my routine where every morning I'll have coffee, and it will be a point where I can be like, oh, I can sit, I can breathe, you know, I can relax for a second, enjoy my coffee, get myself mentally prepared for the day, like what's going to happen, you know, after I finish this cup of coffee, like how is this day going to kind of lay out, right? The outline, what I've been talking before. So coffee is a really good thing. Also cologne. Sometimes I switch up colognes, but sometimes a certain smell can help calm you. And most of my colognes are like that kind of thing for me, where I'll take a cologne with me, or like a travel size one, and I'll take it with me and I'll either like spray it on my hotel pillow, or, you know, I'll wear it for the day, and it helps kind of center me and calm me. Because I'm like, okay, this is a scent. I'm used to this scent. Like, it's triggering that response of like, okay, you're okay kind of thing in my brain. Because again, it's predictable. I know it, like it's a known thing, and I have it, and it's nice. It's a nice little thing, a self-care thing that you do, basically, like a self-love thing. You make sure you're good for what's going to come up in the day. That's why I hate waking up late, because when I wake up late, I don't have time to do any of this stuff, and I'm running around with my chicken with my head cut off, and I'm missing all these routines, and I feel off for the entire day because I'm missing all of my routine, and it just triggers. It just triggers me. So by waking up early, having the time to do everything like this is really beneficial for me and my brain. So I highly recommend it for all the other people out there with ADHD, is to have some type of a routine when you are traveling. And sometimes I'll have time for a workout. So if I'm on vacation or whatever, I'll usually work out in the mornings, because it usually helps me. Like, I always usually just work out in the mornings because it's the best time to work out. And I like that in my routine. The workout gets the enzymes going, the dopamine, everything. And it's nice, and, you know, you're at baseline the rest of the day. Another topic that I want to talk about is being mindful and the flexibility, right? So understanding that things will go unplanned. Most of the time when you're traveling, there's a lot of things that go unplanned. My mother always used to tell me that, you know, always know that at least 3 things are going to go wrong. Everything comes in threes. And I'm like, okay. So every time I travel, I'm like, okay, well, 3 things are going to go wrong. So that way you're not really surprised when things do go wrong. You're like, okay, this is the first thing. Okay. And it's, you know, something is going to go unplanned, you know, whether that be with your hotel, whether that be with the transportation part. But, you know, there's so many pieces to traveling that, you know, it's going to go wrong somewhere. So you just kind of have to be aware of that and be on the ball, right? And you kind of have to adapt to it. With ADHD, you need to know like the plan, right? The timing, the steps, because we get anxious when things are last minute. You know, because it's not planned, right? So we have no idea what's coming. And so that scares us because our brain is so, wishy-washy. We don't know what's coming with that. And so to have something else on top of that being unplanned, and it's scary. It's scary for us. And, it's the same thing about control for us. Like, it's not about the power, it's about the predictability, right? Our brain already feels chaotic, and certainty feels like safety to us, which is why we like things a certain way, or why we have to know the plans of things beforehand, because, we like the certainty, we like the safety, we like feeling okay. And that's one of the things that help us, And you know what? Here's such the ironic thing is that we are so good at being adaptable because we've had to pivot so quickly because we've spent, our whole lives, forgetting things and, missing deadlines and being unprepared, that we are constantly in damage control. And we're in this constant damage control state where we have to be able to fix things on the fly because, again, we are forgetful. We are, trying to figure everything out. And we are so busy in our brains that we have to be on damage control all the time, which is a whole other episode of like how it is in relationships, how it is in, friendships, and how it is in workplace. Damage control is something that we always end up having to do, right? And, when we get to things like this, like traveling and stuff like that, the damage control is mostly like, the being unprepared part, right? The missing the flights, being on time, basically, the time management. And with the time management, I always set reminders. I set alarms. I set, different things to remind myself like, hey, I need to be at the airport by this time. Or, hey, I need to get this rental car at this time so that I have enough time to drive to the event. Setting alarms, setting reminders, planning it out ahead of time helps so much. And that way you are less likely to forget your scheduled traveling itinerary. Because of all this and the damage control, we are so good at adapting. So even though we really, really hate it, we already have a habit of being a good pivoter, right? Being adaptable to all of our situations. So I wanted to let you know that anybody else out there that has ADHD that, wants to travel and stuff, there's no reason to be scared if things go unplanned because you're good at adapting. You're gonna figure it out. There's been 0 times where I haven't been able to figure it out or haven't been able to switch something or make it on time. It's always worked out. And I want everyone to know that it will work out. It will work out. Even though everything seems chaotic and the world is going to fall down if you miss your flight, it's going to work out. So keep that in mind. And one of the last kind of things is the self-care aspect, right? So it's a part of kind of the routine category where I like to be felt taken care of, right? I like to feel taken care of, right? And sometimes no one is going to do that for you. So you have to take care of yourself, especially if you're solo traveling, right? You need to take care of yourself, and these are part of the whole, traveling with things to help you feel at home, to make you feel comfortable, right? Like the cologne, the shower, the coffee, the things like that make you feel like you're taken care of, right? Making sure that you're getting enough sleep or taking an eye mask or so. Make sure that you feel like your best self and you are taken care of. That's like the first thing, whether it's for a job, whether it's for just traveling on a vacation, you need to make sure that you feel comfortable and that you are taken care of, because if you don't, you will have a miserable time and it will not be fun whatsoever. And you'll just be miserable and probably very crabby. It's just not fun. So taking care of yourself is one of the best things you can do when you are traveling. This probably took me the longest to learn because I feel as though I've been so dependent on others. Like even as a kid, I've been dependent on my parents. When I got into relationships, I've been very dependent on them. And when I'm traveling for my job now, like I've just kind of learned that, I'm alone, I'm solo, like nobody's going to take care of me. Nobody's gonna be like, hey, you need to go to bed. No one's like, hey, you need to get up. No one's like, hey, like, let me give you a little massage. Like you have to do it yourself. And, if you freak out, if you start panicking, like you have to figure out a way to calm yourself down. Self-soothing is what they call it. So you have to figure out those kinds of things. And only because of, traveling recently, I've had to learn that because, I haven't been really on my own traveling at all. There's only been like one flight where I've been alone. But, doing this job and getting me out of my comfort zone, it has allowed me to learn that like taking care of myself, making sure I feel prepared, making sure I have the rental car, making sure, my plane ticket is right, making sure that all of my stuff gets there. And, by taking care of yourself, you feel more confident and you feel like you have more trust in yourself. And when you're more confident, it gives you a better ability to enjoy where you are, right? When you're confident, you exude this power kind of, and people are attracted to confidence. And, when you feel prepared and you feel ready, that also gives you confidence. And basically, if you manage all this ADHD stuff while you're traveling, you can end up being comfortable traveling in the unknown, quote unquote, and be confident in doing some of this stuff. And when you're confident in this and traveling alone and, doing it on your own, you'll be confident in more areas of your life, right? Because if you can do that, you can do whatever else that comes your way. And it's like this really cool thing that you learn when you travel solo, which is why I think everyone should travel solo, even if you're in a relationship. I still think you should travel alone because you learn so much about yourself, how you do things, why you do things, and more importantly, how you can troubleshoot on the go by yourself. And that's one of the best skills that you can have in your life. There's a lot of jobs based off of that, basically. It's a powerful skill, and by traveling and doing it alone, you will get. And again, with the whole self-care thing of like the showers, the eye masks, the smells, the TV favorites, if you get uncomfortable and you want to watch TV or whatever, you have time, putting your clothes out the next day. These are all things of self-care, right? These are all things to take care of yourself, make sure you're prepared, have everything right, pre-packing, pre-planning. All this stuff is making sure that you feel supported by yourself and you know how to do things, and how to execute those things, right? And how to troubleshoot things on the go. And then lastly is using a support system. So when I'm traveling, I have a girlfriend, and she helps me with all the logistical stuff. So booking flights the cheapest way, rental cars, and also helps me find vegan food, because sometimes that's always an issue, is finding food. And food is it's such a issue for me. Not knowing where your meal is going to come from is very scary. Your next meal is going to come from. Very scary. And by, already having some of these places picked out, so that way I can go into this list and be like, okay, well, I want this kind of food, what's on the list around me that I can eat. So she'll write out a list of, places I can eat that are dairy-free and vegan, whatever, which is great because, that's amazing. That's what I need, because I'm dealing with, the logistics, the time, the schedule, the working, the packing, making sure I have everything. I'm already overwhelmed with this, and by her doing that helps me out so much because it makes my brain feel like supported and safe and comfortable because I have my girlfriend, giving me lists of, where to eat that's safe, that I won't feel sick from. So having a loved one that can do that for you, or having someone that you can text or call while you're on this extravagant journey, right, is always a really good thing, right? Because, if you need help, if, something goes wrong, you can always have them as your back burner, right? You're not truly alone. You can always have that little bit of help. And even if, you need help, even like in the airport or at the rental car place, like, I've asked so many people in the airport like, where to go so many times. So, having support systems, even if it's a stranger, is really good and crucial to growing as a person, but also figuring out, what the next moves are. It's really good to be able to have that kind of confidence to ask people for help. Not a lot of people have that. Not a lot of people like to ask for help. I always see it as essential because not only, am I most of the time on the clock for work and I have to be there at a certain time. So I'm like stressing on how to get there at a time. And if I don't know where to go, you already know I'm going to be asking anybody around me where to go because I will be late if I don't open my mouth and ask somebody. So, and again, you need to make sure that you have some type of support system. If that might be a friend or, a loved one or, a partner, whatever. Having a support system is always nice when you are traveling or on the go. Kind of the final thing that I kind of wanted to wrap this up as is that, us with ADHD, we have rapid fire brains and we're always going and, always overwhelmed. Just making sure that you're paying attention on where you're going. And, if you're on a schedule, you need to plan accordingly to that schedule. Like I said, I have a job, and when I travel, I always quadruple check the schedule and the timing. I'm texting the on-site contact, hey, is this time that's on the schedule good to go? Most of the time it is. Sometimes it changes. Sometimes it's later. Sometimes it's earlier. So you never know, right? But by, triple checking, double checking, it's always like a safety net, basically. So it covers you, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast of, managing ADHD while you are traveling. These are some of the tips that I use, some of the things that I use that really, really help me when I'm traveling on the go. And I hope this helped a little bit for you guys. With that being said, I will see you guys all in the next episode. My name is Lauren Ruggiero. This is Young, Wired, and Unmedicated, and I will see you guys all next Sunday. Peace out, enjoy life, and live it up.